Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Apurv Malik, and I welcome you all here in this webinar session being conducted by TNV Academy. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce our guest speaker for today's webinar, Mr. Ajay Bajpai. In this webinar today, Mr. Ajay Bajpai will discuss about environmental objectives and planning to achieve them, which is covered under clause 6.2 of ISO 14001 Environment Management System Standard. Mr. Ajay Bajpai has audited several organizations for various management system standards and has helped several others for their implementation. Our distinguished speaker, Mr. Ajay Bajpai, has done his bachelor's in engineering in metallurgy stream. He is also a lead auditor in ISO 9001, 14001, 45001, 37001, 22000, 27001, 13485, 22301, and 50001 standards respectively. He has an industrial experience of around 15 plus years as implementer of management system standards and around 32 plus years in auditing and certification. He has been imparting training to a number of organizations, entrepreneurs, and individuals on various topics related to ISO terminologies and their certification and implementation. It was just a brief introduction of our guest speaker today. And now, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Ajay Bajpai. I may request Mr. Ajay Bajpai now to please take over and start the webinar.
Thank you, Apur, and other participants into this webinar. We are discussing a topic today which is very much related to all of us with respect to the environmental conditions today. Before the start of the webinar, we were discussing with the team regarding the status of environment around the globe. Particularly, I am based in Delhi, so Delhi and nearby area is very much polluted nowadays. Every day the AQI, API, CCI, different kind of indexes are being reflected and conditions are not very good. So this is related with respect to the environmental objective definitely and environmental policy which we have discussed in last webinar. So environmental objectives is something which is making the organization to work, really work and see that yes, the objectives of policy and the objectives of 41001 documentation, implementation, auditing, and improvement of environmental performance is reflected directly. You see, our aim of conducting these webinars is very, very clear that we as a group at TNV Academy and TNV Group want to share our knowledge base with the global community of ISO so that the overall improvement can be brought in. We have resources available globally, we have auditors, trainers globally with whom we keep on sharing the documentation, the principles, and the reports and their feedbacks are coming and we keep on reviewing it. So we, via our different kinds of discussions and webinars and videos, keep on discussing and enhancing our knowledge level, and we try to share the same knowledge level which is practically oriented with the global fraternity of ISO. So it is important that we have objectives established at relevant functions. We have a lot of functions into the organization, which start from the marketing, where the team is going to fetch the orders, and then orders are brought to the organization. And this client who is giving us the orders, he also has the expectations that the client will be meeting the requirements with respect to the environmental performance and his environmental objectives. So many times we look practically that if I am the client, I am the manufacturer of automotive components, I have a customer who is manufacturing the cars. So this car manufacturing has certain objectives. So as a marketing function, I will have the clear objectives that yes, number one, I will meet and support the environmental objectives of my customers. And how that will happen? Because the customer has given certain direction. He has got environmental objectives already set. Accordingly, we will also have my own objective set as a manufacturer of components and accessories for my car customer manufacturer. So those needs to be set at marketing level. Similar way, when we are coming to the purchasing, the production, the assembly, the maintenance, and all other functions into the organization. So at various levels, we need to set the environmental objectives. Okay. Also, in this standard, we have a very clear cut situation of aspect and impacts understanding and associated compliance obligation, the legal requirement, the statutory and regulatory requirements. And also we are conducting a risk analysis. Okay, so as we have understood that these standards are now risk based concept are there, and they talk of risk and opportunity all the way around in all the most of the clauses which are linked with each other as we have discussed earlier. And there are various processes which are there into the organization, and we will be discussing and focusing on the processes and the requirements which are directly talking of environment management system and environment policy. So moving further, the environmental objective should be consistent with the environmental policy. The organizational top management, with the support of the entire team, uh, considering the requirements and the feedback from interested parties, has set up environmental policy. It has been documented, drafted maybe initially. So now what do? We are going to support the environmental policy with environmental objective, which needs to be measurable. The standard says if practicable. In some instances, it may not be measurable immediately. It takes time to get the data and documents to be reaching a certain level. Then it becomes measurable and more accountable for a particular function. So as we discussed, for example, into the marketing, our customer have said that yes, you need to supply the components to my car manufacturing assembly unit by meeting the requirement that if you have any plastics, any chemicals, any packaging material, they should be as per the requirement of mine given in the purchase order, and also meeting the requirement of my environmental objectives. So similar way, our marketing department will pass on those objectives of customers to the manufacturing process, to the purchasing process. And our purchasing department, as a manufacturer of components, will, when talk to the supplier and contractors, we will be talking to them that yes, your supply to us should be as per our environmental objectives, which again meaning the similar kind of requirement that they have the packaging material, the chemicals, they all should be as per the requirement supplied in meeting the requirement of MSDS. For example, if a chemical is being supplied to us, then it need to have a MSDS with us, material safety data sheet, and the transportation should be done in a vehicle which meets the requirement of the pollution control board and environmental policy of ours, and the requirement of levels of the SO2, CO2, whatever are the requirement of the pollution control board of the state, they are met with. So then again it needs to be monitored. Objectives, whatever we have documented by doing a good study, we'll see in next slides, there needs to be definitely monitor. If you do not monitor any documentation, any activity by way of environmental objectives, then we cannot move forward. So monitoring is one of the requirements. Then communicated. Communication is again required, because unless the objectives are communicated to the team, to the interested parties, maybe to the suppliers, contractors, to the our regulatory statutory board, customers, consultants, auditors, and so on, then they cannot be met with. So communication is a key requirement. Updated as appropriate. Situation keeps on changing. Today we have drafted a policy, we have drafted different service operation, different supply operations, but as we go on in few weeks and few months, they will be updated. So with the changing requirement, with the changing design requirement, with the changing technology, the objectives also needs to be updated as appropriate and as required. And environmental objectives needs to be documented. When we are going for third party audits, we see whether the documentation has been done or not, if it is documented, whether it has been updated or not, it has been communicated or not, monitoring is going on or not, and measurement of this is going on or not. Because if these activities are happening, then yes, the system implementation has started into the organization as a manufacturer of automotive components, maybe. Then we go further. When we are planning these objectives, what all needs to be done by me as an organization? We will be discussing most of the time the practical examples. So I am a manufacturer today. So what all I should be doing? What resources are required? Because we cannot implement the objectives without making a plan, without understanding what all needs to be done, what resources are required, whether we need some extra manpower, whether we need some extra machines, whether we need some extra instruments for making the measurements of the requirements of the pollution control board, air quality checking, water quality checking, oil level content checking, and so on. And then who will be responsible? Then we have to define the responsibility. Without defining the responsibility, the system of objective implementation will not move. Many organizations we see into third party auditing, the responsibilities are confusing, they are not very clear. So we do not know whom to ask the question, who will give us the presentation onto the monitoring of the data, who will give us the presentation onto the test results of the air checking, water checking, performance checking, and so on. When it will be completed, objectives are documented, but when a particular objective will be completed, for example, we are talking of a electricity consumption in a particular situation of a hotel, where the energy utilization is a lot, water utilization is a lot. So we have to see that it is related to the aspects of the activity. When we are into an educational institute, what objectives we will have? We have to see that practically the students, whether they are into schools or college, their concepts are made very, very clear with respect to the pollution control activities, pollution prevention activity. If they are clear and Merry Christmas is coming, they will, if guided properly, if trained properly, then they will see that energy can be conserved. The pollution increases a lot after these festivals, for example, after Deepavali and all, the situation because of the crackers. So if they are trained that way, if their concepts are made practically oriented, if their objectives will say that our students will be responsible for the society and they will themselves control the crackers, and they will see that they're also convincing the neighbors and other friends, family members to control this activity. So the pollution will automatically be controlled. So objective should be practically documented, practically understood. Normally, we say it is a small group activity, SGA, to see that we go to every place, every site, every activity, every machine, every department, every purchase function, and then we conduct a gap analysis and we compare the requirements with what is happening today into the department and function, and then we make it clear that what resources are required, who is responsible, and targets are documented that when it will be completed. Because anything, unless there is a target, when it is completed, we will not be able to move on further. Also, we decide how the results will be evaluated, who will check it out, how it will be checked, what testing parameters will be required, what are the indicators, who will be doing the monitoring? Internal team, external team, it depends upon the organization decision. Some organizations have a lot of testing equipment themselves. So a lot of test results they can verify with their QA QC team. Some organizations will give it on contract. They will hire the agencies who will conduct a lot of testing and monitoring, and maybe the other services of the internal auditing and training and documentation is offloaded. So it depends upon what has been offloaded, what is done into the company. But the progress monitoring is the key to the activity, that yes, objectives are measured and ultimately we can achieve them. So that's the thought and the theme. Then we go further. What are the desired results? We don't expect the organizational team just to spell out, just to read out the objectives, as is in the case of policy. We want them to understand. If concept is saying, for example, into a hotel industry, that water consumption, water conservation is very, very critical. Water harvesting is required. Rain harvesting is required. They should not be wasting the water into the washing of the vehicles. If they do so, they are able to further safeguard and conserve the water so that it is not going to drains unnecessarily. It is further utilized in rain harvesting or utilization into the giving waters to other sources, and then treatment is done and so on. So we have to practically see what is the requirement. And then it also gives an assurance that environment management system, yes, as planned by me as an hotelier, is going to meet the requirement, and my global customers, when they visit my hotel, they are satisfied and happy that yes, we are meeting the requirement of the environment management system, and they feel them safe and secure, because one of the requirements further will be emergency preparedness. They are all linked. Aspect impact at many places will be linked to environmental objectives. So our customers, once they feel yes, their safety requirements are displayed into their rooms and various areas, the environmental policies and objectives are there, and they are shared with them. So they know that yes, the customer understand them, they also are happy, satisfied, and they want to follow and they wish to follow. Organizations, many will like us who are implementing it sincerely and seriously into our hotel or into my manufacturing unit. I will have a discussion with the customers. There's a situation where they are entering into the security gate. So each and every one is important. When we are saying the training, team is trained, the security person, even the smallest person in the organization, PO and helper, is equally important to be trained on to the concept. For example, as you said, when a customer is entering into my hotel from the security area, it is my duty to see that he is not carrying anything like chemicals or explosives or any prohibited items. Or if supplier is sending us some items, some food items, some chemicals to be mixed into the food, or chemicals for cleaning of generator sets or boilers, or generators, or the kitchen cleaning equipment or hotel cleaning equipment, there are a lot of chemicals being used. Pest controls are being done. So when they are coming, they need to have material safety data sheet. They need to be clear of what all they are going to handle and how they are going to handle as per the environment objective of my hotel or my organization. Then the objective should be smart, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and target oriented. Language should be clear. If we are into a country where the language is Urdu and I am documenting all my objectives into a very tough language of dictionary language of English, how my visitor, how my customer, how my supplier will understand that. So language is a key area. It should be meaningful. Sometime into the auditing, we have seen that the auditing himself is not able to explain the meaning of the objective. He is confused. He is saying some conservation will be done, some percentages are there, they are left, left, right, up and down written. So meaning should be clear. It should be logical. When we are talking of conservation of energy or conservation of water or rain harvesting or plantation or energy reduction by having the solar lights or whatever way we are having, it should be written logically so that the meaning is understood. Sometimes we find language is so illogical that neither they understand nor they can explain to us. So we have to do nothing but to raise a non-conformity. So if we have to improve upon, non-conformity is a good thing to have improvement, but not unnecessarily have a non-conformity because of illogical, meaningless documentation done of objectives. Okay, it should meet the needs of the interested parties. We cannot have objectives which will put our suppliers into difficulties. We may write something here which will put our supplier into a situation where he does not know how to give next lot of cleaning chemicals to my hotel. So he get into a problem. He finds a language and he finds something written into the purchase order which is not clear. He does not know what kind of transportation he will be using today. So the supply will be delayed. The cleaning objective and keeping the premises clean for customers will not be met because that is another objective of the marketing department. They are all interlinked. So we need to see that the requirement of the customers are also met, interested parties, suppliers are also met practically, not theoretically. So if we are doing it with a practical obligation, making ourselves conceptually clear, then all requirements are met. Also, objectives needs to meet the mission, vision, and direction of the top management with respect to environment policy. Environment policy has been documented and it is in well thought of vision and direction of the organization. And to meet them, environmental objectives are written down. And we have to see that yes, they are meeting the requirement of the environmental policy. Sometimes we find environmental policy is going in one direction, objectives are going into another direction. Environmental policy of a hotel is talking lot of things about water conservation, energy conservation, electricity conservation, handling of wastage, control of food wastage, holding the waste material into proper bins. But when we come to the objectives, objectives are talking of something else. It is talking of packaging material. It is talking of handling the customer in the best way. It we have seen into some places. So they are not going in hand to hand each other. The objectives are not drawn with respect to the policy. So what policy says, if we can have the objectives in the similar direction, then yes, conceptually we are moving towards a positive environmental performance improvement. That is the aim. We also need to see that yes, business processes are also integrated. You know, requirement of the customer, requirements of the deliveries in time, requirements of the handling of the finished product as per the objectives of the customers, as per the objectives of the final customer, as per the objectives of the globe, as per the requirement of SDG, Sustainable Development Goals. So we need to see if we can survive if business processes are supported by good and effective environmental objectives. They need to be integrated and move hand in hand, move together, because if we are not considering the business process while documenting and implementing all this, we will fail into the audit, we will fail into the business. Ultimately our profitability will be going into negative direction. So that's very important. Moving further, the planning. As I said, documentation needs to be done in by SGA, small group activity. Sometimes we see globally into the organization, into third party auditing, our auditor gives feedback that sir, documents were prepared, documented by only by using a external customer. company team, the EMS team, the EMS core team was not involved to the extent required. So documentation was not correct. Provide training, whatever is documented, drafted, that needs to be given a effective training of the team needs to be trained. Team, when I say, it includes the customers, to the suppliers, to the statutory regulatory boards, to the legal requirements, all they need to be trained to the sense that yes, they are at least provided with the documents and they are clear. They have opened the attachment. If the attachment has been sent, yes, to a customer that this is our environmental policy and this is our objective. So our marketing team, our coordinating team needs to ensure that they have opened the attachment which was there, not just kept as a document. Then displays are required. You know, physical as per plan, website as per plan, the more and more transparency, more and more clarity, because if we are drafting the objectives and they are reflected, they are displayed, they are known to interested parties, customers, our regulatory statutory board, our auditors, our certification body, then they can comment since the very beginning of the implementation of the system. And before we go wrong as a implementer, the actions are taken, corrective actions are taken. Also, there are various ways, there are various software available, they can be communicated and displayed by different ways. And then communication we have discussed within the organization and interested parties as per the plan of the company. An organization have a freedom to make their own plan. They can have their own policy, they can have their own procedures of this whole thing, how they will document hard copy, soft copy by way of softwares, whatever way. It is the problem of auditors how to conduct the audits, because sometimes we have seen auditors making comments, the documents are not suitable to us. Documents should will be suitable to the working of the organization, but not to the auditors. So auditors have to mold themselves to see that they are trained enough to complete the auditing activity with respect to whatever software or hardware the company is documenting the procedures and system. So once documented and now communication is done, so implementation is now going on. So whatever is the plan of the objective, the marketing objective, the purchase objective, the school has the objective of controlling of crackers by educating the students and the teachers. Maybe a chemical consumption company has a lot of chemicals coming in. They are implementing it by receiving it only with the MSDS and the safety precautions. Their security team is guarded adequately. They have got a facility where the customer and visitors, the moment they enter, as per the objective, they are given a presentation so that they know how to remain in the vicinity of this premises and how to behave. What are the security safety conditions? What are the the mock drills linked to the objectives and where they have to gather in case of a emergency situation? What are the visual siren situation in the company as laid down in the objectives of the entry of the visitors into the organization, into the hotel, into the college, or into the manufacturing unit. Along with that, we have to continuously doing the analysis of the objectives. When we are drafted, when we are implementing, analysis of objective is one of the requirements, so that we are moving in the right direction, correct conceptual direction. We are not going wrong. We are not just going by without understanding, and analysis is very important. And this chart, when do the analysis, we need to update the objective charts. We have got objective chart where objective is written, objective responsibility is written, objective implementation plan is written, responsibility is written, the target is written. So this chart will be updated when we do the analysis of the objective. Once we do that, we reach the next step. Implementation is further going on. So it is at various functions as per the plan. whatever plan we have made with respect to policy and then objective into a marketing function, it is being done. Sometimes it becomes difficult initially, but yes, once we understand conceptually, it happens. From 20 years back, we had an organization. It was a, the office activity. They wanted to go for EMS certification. So initially, we had a lot of difficulties, maybe because that was one of the first few companies who were going for EMS certification. So we are well thinking what plan to be made in a office situation. But yes, after having discussions, with the team when we went for that time, it was called document audit, then pre-assessment, and then the final audit. So into documentation, it's a hell lot of discussion went on. What kind of objectives they have made, lot of revisions had been done because in office situation, what emergency will be there while you are going into a lift or when you are going to stairs or when you are walking around into the office, the situations of the tables, the situation of the ventilation, the situation of air conditioning, their services and all. So it was not simple for us, but yes, we as a team had come out with objective plans and functions, and we had been able to finally have very effective and practical objectives. So at various functions, we need to do what kind of plan we can make. And once we do it, we have to enhance the effectiveness of objectives. Objectives, when documented, are not the end of it. We need to keep on studying, analyzing, collecting the data, and keep on enhancing the effectiveness. Updation in the planning chart is again very important. The policy and objective, they are all interrelated. So we have to keep on updating the chart as we move on. Then precise calculation in case of objectives. Yes, we need to conserve 85.2% of water in next 3 months. We want to conserve 2.3% more electricity in next 3 months. How do we do it? So these calculations are very important. How our oil consumption will be reduced by 1% in next 3 months. Our oil loss to the earth, which was going on earlier before the system implementation started, before the documentation started, was say 3.5% in last 6 months. So what are we going to do? We are going to have secondary, collection of the oil which is going to leak from the machine. We are going to have a tertiary collection, and even if it is going further, we will extract it by latest technological methods. We'll calculate so that the losses are minimized. So we need to have good calculations and we need to review the facts and figures by involvement of all team members. A lot of time the organization don't involve all. For example, a EMS team does not have a good involvement of the maintenance team. So how they will implementation the leakage of the machines in a particular workshop if they do not have the maintenance engineering team involved? They themselves cannot do because this is a team which is more involved with the document and data control, document data development. So they need to have a technical person from maintenance, from engineering, who can guide them well so that the oil losses are controlled, so that the air losses are controlled, so that the water losses are controlled, and fact and figures are known to us. So it is important to involve all. At times, the customers give a lot of good feedback. The interested parties, the suppliers give a lot of feedback into the transportation. We need not to impose our quality objectives on them, but we need to involve our suppliers and interested parties and as well the customer and boards so that they give us positive feedback and we move on. And now the system of environmental objectives have been implemented. So we need to study the charts into small group activities, as I always said from the beginning, and then cross-functional teams. Because when we do the analysis into the beginning, we always need to use a cross-functional team because EMS objectives, environmental objectives in their legal standards, they need to involve cross-functional team and many others more than other environmental, more than other objectives as we discussed in quality objectives and so on. So cross-functional team because of the technology and because to meet the legal requirement is very important here. Then what we are getting a lot of data from here. We have been implementing environmental objectives for last 3 months now. So we have data available with us. We have got feedback from marketing. We have got feedback from suppliers. We have got test results of the water, the air, the PCBC controls data is there, the vibration monitoring is there, the noise level data is there. So what do we do now? The emergency preparedness, effectiveness increasing was one of the objectives. Mock drills increase enhancement was one of the objectives. So they all have given us the data now. Data in soft, hard copy is available. The charts are available. So they need to be analyzed and show us the direction of what has been done right or what has been done wrong, where we have wasted the resources, where the environmental objectives has been able to add value to the business process, where it has given a harm. Sometimes a system only implemented without the involvement of team, only trained and given by some consultant as it is implemented without looking into the practical implementation. A quality objectives copied from a educational institute being implemented into a hotel, or copied from a manufacturing industry being implemented into a service organization will give us a wrong direction, will give us wrong results, negative results. So this data gives us all this direction, what we have lost, what we have gained in last 3 months by implementation of environmental objectives. Once we do that, now 3 4 more months have gone since the day we have drafted the system. Implementation has started. So now we need to do a effective internal audit of environmental objectives implementation. Who will do that? A trained and qualified internal audit who is conceptually trained enough and has experience of data implementation. He needs to be a calculative person so that when he looks at the tracks, the trends, he should be able to understand. Sometimes we have seen that a marketing person who is not an analytical person at times for the objectives which are 80% for the production, quality control, and other aspects into a manufacturing unit. If he is going for an audit, the results may not be good. Or if a say for example, if a manufacturing pure production person who does not have any concept of marketing, without having the conceptually understanding of the environmental objectives for a marketing or purchasing kind of activity, he goes for an audit, we may be doing a mistake. So we need to understand which auditor to be used for auditing of the environmental objectives, which functions. In a large set of organizations, we may use different set of auditors for different kind of functions. We do it always. So we should see that yes, environmental objectives function is audited by a person, by a trained qualified auditors for this particular function, not a general auditor just going and trying to do audit and coming out with some point which will not be adding value to our environmental objectives improvement. Once this happens, then we again have the data from here on the direction of the environmental objectives implementation. We have got the feedback, we have got the NC chart, we have got the objective charts, we have got the internal audit reports available of environmental objectives. So what we do, we go for a environmental review. We go for a management review meeting of the environmental objectives in details, and we involve the team who was involved into the documentation, implementation of the environmental objectives, those head of department, those managers who are directly involved into it, and they have the data and document in their hands, and the coordinators have got the tracking sheet, and he is going to present to the top management and the team of implementers, team of document developers, that this is the status of the objectives in last 3 months. So the management team, the environment review team will plan further action, they will make further directions clear, they will decide the direction, they will plan further resources for the implementation, for the testing, for the measurement, for the enhancement of the further environmental objectives, for the whatever we have thought of from customer side, our internal objectives, our purchasing objectives, our air control objectives, our decimation objectives, our waste disposal objectives, our PCPC objectives, our legal objectives, our legal requirements, whatever are there, they are further tracked and responsibilities and authorities are further defined and further implement and monitoring is going on. And ultimately, by doing all this, we reach a situation of improvement of objectives. So, what all we have discussed today, that yes, the documentation is needed to support the vision and mission of the organization, considering the risk and opportunities at various and relevant functions. We need to have it consistent with the policy. They need to be monitored, communicated, updation, and documented information is available to us as an internal auditor or external auditor, whatever is the situation. And then what needs to be done, who is responsible, when it to be completed, evaluation, all this needs to be planned, indicators needs to be defined and documented, and then we have the desired results at the training conceptually, then meeting the mission of the top management, meeting the mission of the globe, and we are moving further. And then we do the planning, documentation, implementation by involvement of all, including interested parties. Then action plan and implementation. We start implementing. Along with the implementation, we do the analysis side by side so that we know that yes, we should not be going wrong. Our direction should be positive and as thought of. And we are running it and we are seeing that yes, effectiveness is enhanced, the calculations are going on, facts and figures are known to us, we are being correct calculations and precise calculations, not going by yes, yeah, it might have increased by 2%, yeah, it might have gone down by 3%. No, we need to have calculations in front of us before taking a further decisions. And then we come to the analysis of the entire implementation of the environmental objectives into the organization, whether it is a hotel, it is an educational institute, it is an office, or it is a manufacturing plant of components, or it is a car manufacturing, or whatever, because we have to ultimately see that yes, we are responsible for safeguarding the environment globally with the support of effective and and more documented and implementation of the effective environmental objectives. And then we can further go into the certification process by looking at our various websites of certification bodies, which are very, very informative. You can go and study and find out more and more information, learn more and more on certification process, on training process, and improve upon your working and operations and be a good implementer, good auditor for meeting the requirements of environmental objectives. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, we can have them.
Sir, I have a question.
Yes.
Sir, it has been seen in many standards. I have personally seen in many standards that when we talk about objectives, it is written everywhere that objectives should be quantifiable and measurable. So, what is the best approach to make a particular objective, measurable or quantifiable?
Say, for example, when we go for audits, we have seen companies are, many companies are weak into this in the beginning of the this thing. They will say that I am into an hotel. I am going to draft my environment objective today. And while drafting, what I will do, I will say that yes, I will try to conserve 2% water in next 1 year or so. Is it right? But then we have to say we are also to do the analysis of what was the earlier level. Earlier level might have been 1%, and you have had a wrong objective. So to make a effective and practical objective, it is advisable to understand what was the earlier level of water conservation, how much they were consuming it earlier, what is the practical possible target, who is going to be responsible, and is how much time we will further review it. So a good and practical example of this may say that our water consumption was, X kiloliter per month till the last quarter. Now we are going to make a environmental objective to reduce it by 0.2% from X kiloliter to X minus 1% or 1.2% in last 3 months. And after 3 months, we will again track it and see our direction. So this is how we need to draft a practical environment objective. And it is
Thank you
again
so much, sir.
calculated and we review it.
Thank you so much, sir.
Any other question?
If the participants do not have any questions as of now, I will suggest them that they can always place their questions in the comment section of the video, which will be uploaded on our YouTube channel. And those questions will be passed on to Mr. Ajay Bajpai, and definitely he will be answering them. So you are free to upload your questions later on as well. And if you want to review or understand this particular topic again, it is absolutely free, available on our YouTube channel, and you can watch it as many times as you want. Also, you can share this particular content with your friends and colleagues and to different sections and domains of your knowing and understanding as well. So we can now come to the conclusion of this particular session. I would say that we have been really glad to understand this particular knowledge shared by Mr. Ajay Bajpai on such a vast and complex terminology, which is also a critical element in the implementation of the standard, which is ISO 14001 Environment Management System. I can also say with much confidence that our participants must have enjoyed the context of today's webinar, and it will add value to their expertise and domain of work. I thank you from the bottom of my heart on behalf of TNV Academy, Mr. Ajay Bajpai, for giving your valuable time and accepting our invitation to be the guest speaker for today. Also, thank all the participants for taking out time from their busy schedule and joining us in the webinar today. Hope to see you all again soon with an exciting new topic and another webinar. I wish you all best of luck on behalf of TNV Academy for all your future endeavors. Thank you so much.